In the hushed corridors of the private hospital, the sharp scent of antiseptic mingled with the gravity of fate. Chinedu Okafor, a self-made titan who had built a sprawling empire from nothing, now lay in a stark white bed. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months, the doctor had said. Dr. Uche's voice was calm yet unyielding as he delivered the news. Chinedu, we've repeated every test. I'm sorry, but the prognosis is terminal. Chinedu's hands gripped the crisp white sheets, knuckles whitening in disbelief. Impossible, he muttered, his voice trembling. I feel strong. There must be some mistake. Dr. Uche adjusted his glasses, his tone gentle but firm. I wish it were otherwise, but time is short. At 55, Chinedu had everything. A legacy of wealth, power, and respect. Yet as he faced the final chapter of his life, a haunting thought gripped him. Without an heir, his empire and its hard-won achievements would vanish into the hands of greedy relatives and opportunists. Later that evening, in the grand Okafor mansion, Ngozi, his loyal housekeeper of over a decade, was busy preparing freshly squeezed zobo on the dining table. The light from the setting sun danced across the room as she arranged the tray with care. Yet she sensed an unusual heaviness in the air, a tension that belied the mansion's opulence. Sir, are you all right? Ngozi asked softly, noticing Chinedu seated in his massive leather armchair, his eyes distant and clouded with despair. Chinedu turned his weary gaze upon her, his face etched with pain and urgency. Ngozi, I've just returned from the hospital, he said in a hoarse whisper. They've given me 6 months at best. I cannot let my legacy die with me. Ngozi's heart pounded as she absorbed his words. But sir, surely there is another way, she ventured, her voice trembling. Chinedu leaned forward, his eyes pleading. Ngozi, you've been more than a servant to me. In all these years, you have been my trusted companion, steadfast and true. I need an heir, someone to carry forward the Okafor name, and I believe you are the one I can trust. Silence fell as the weight of his request pressed upon them both. Ngozi's hands trembled. The very idea seemed unthinkable. Sir, are you asking me to, she began, her voice barely a whisper. He nodded, swallowing hard. I need you to bear my child, Ngozi. I know this sounds sudden and perhaps even outrageous, but without an heir, everything I have built will vanish. I promise, you and the child will never want for anything. I will care for you both always. Ngozi recoiled slightly, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. Raised in a strict home where dignity and purity were held sacred, she found herself torn between loyalty, duty, and the profound implications of such an intimate act. Sir, I have never been with any man before, she confessed, her voice laced with uncertainty. How can I possibly do this? Chinedu's eyes softened with both desperation and sorrow. I understand your hesitation, Ngozi. Believe me, I would never ask if I had another choice. But time is a luxury I do not have. I trust you, and it is you alone whom I believe can secure the future of my legacy. Days passed, each one heavy with unspoken tension within the vast mansion. Chinedu's once commanding presence had been replaced by vulnerability, and every conversation seemed to circle back to that one heart-wrenching request. Ngozi, meanwhile, struggled with her own inner turmoil, torn between the sanctity of her values and the empathy she felt for the dying man who had treated her with unwavering kindness over the years. One quiet evening, as the golden hues of dusk filtered through the grand living room, Ngozi found Chinedu alone, his head resting in his hands, as if trying to hold together the fragments of his crumbling world. Sir, she said softly, stepping closer, I am trying to understand, to find a way through this. But my heart is heavy with doubt. Chinedu looked up, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Ngozi, I know this is more than you ever imagined. I'm not asking for love. I only ask for the chance to leave behind a part of me. Please, help me secure my legacy. Let me know that all I've fought for will live on. In that moment, the mansion bore witness to two souls at a crossroads, one desperate to cling to a fading past and the other forced to confront a future that defied everything she had known. Their fates intertwined in a decision that would not only reshape their lives but also redefine the very meaning of loyalty, duty, and sacrifice. Ngozi stood in the quiet kitchen of the mansion, her hands still trembling from Chinedu's shocking request. The room was dark except for the soft light coming through the window. She sat on a small wooden stool and stared at her hands, wondering if she could ever do what he had asked. The words echoed in her mind, "I need you to bear my child." Every time she heard them, her heart pounded hard. That night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, Ngozi walked slowly to her small room. The silence of the house made her feel even more alone. As she sat on her simple bed, she closed her eyes and thought of her childhood. She remembered the stories her mother used to tell her about keeping one's honor and the importance of following the right path. Those stories made her feel both strong and scared at the same time. Her mind went back to the day when Chinedu had told her the news. "Ngozi, I have 6 months left. I need you to help me keep my name alive," he had said with a shaking voice. His eyes were full of tears and hope. At that moment, Ngozi had felt her whole world change. She had spent many years in the mansion, cleaning and taking care of the house, and now he trusted her with something so personal. It made her feel special but also very confused. The next morning, Ngozi woke up early. The sky was still dark, and a soft light crept through the window. She decided she needed to speak with someone who could help her understand her feelings. Remembering a kind and gentle friend from the staff, Ifeoma, Ngozi walked quietly through the long hallways of the mansion to the servants' quarters where Ifeoma stayed. Along the way, she could feel her heart pounding with each step. She wondered if it was right to share such a heavy secret with someone else. When Ngozi found Ifeoma sitting by a small table, stirring a cup of tea, she sat down next to her and whispered, "Ifeoma, I need to talk to you. I have something very heavy on my heart." Ifeoma looked at her with soft, understanding eyes and said, "Tell me, Ngozi. I am here for you." Ngozi took a deep breath. "Yesterday, Sir Chinedu asked me to do something very big. He wants me to have his baby. He says it is the only way to keep his name and legacy. I did not understand it at first, and I feel very scared and confused." Ifeoma listened carefully, her eyes full of concern. Ifeoma reached out and gently held Ngozi's hand. "Ngozi, I know this is hard. It is not a usual thing to ask. But you know, sometimes people make difficult choices when they feel alone and scared. Sir Chinedu is very sick, and he is afraid that his hard work will be lost. He trusts you more than anyone else." Ifeoma's words were calm and simple, and they helped Ngozi feel a little less alone. Ngozi's voice wavered as she continued, "But I was raised to keep my honor and stay true to what I believe is right. How can I do something that goes against all I have been taught?" Tears filled her eyes, and she looked at Ifeoma, hoping for an answer. Ifeoma squeezed her hand and said, "Ngozi, I know you are strong and wise. You have always done what is right by your heart. This is not about losing your honor. It is about trust and about helping someone who is in great pain. Think of it as a way to bring hope where there is sorrow. You can still be the kind, honest person you have always been." For a long while, the two sat in silence. Ngozi's mind was busy with thoughts. She remembered how kind Chinedu had been to her over the years. He had always been fair and gentle with everyone who worked for him. His power did not make him a tyrant, but his illness had made him weak. Now, he was asking her for help in a way she never expected. Ngozi then recalled a day when Sir Chinedu had looked out of a big window, lost in thought. He had whispered, "I have built an empire with hard work, and I fear it will be lost if I am gone." At that moment, she had felt a strange mix of pity and respect for him. Perhaps, she thought, this was his way of trying to fight against the end. After many long hours talking with Ifeoma, Ngozi began to see things more clearly. She started to understand that this was not a simple favor, but a deep plea from a man who had given everything to his people and now felt his life was slipping away. Ifeoma's gentle words helped Ngozi see that sometimes, a difficult choice might be the only way to protect what is precious. Later that day, Ngozi decided to speak with Sir Chinedu. She found him in his study, sitting in his big leather chair, staring out of a window. The room was quiet except for the soft ticking of a clock. She felt her heart pounding as she walked to him. "Sir," she said softly, standing a little in front of him, "I have thought long and hard about what you asked me." Chinedu turned his tired eyes to her, and she could see hope mixed with fear in them. "What did you decide, Ngozi?" he asked in a small, trembling voice. Ngozi took a deep breath. "I feel scared, sir. I have been raised to believe in keeping my honor. I always thought my place was to serve quietly. But I also see your pain and I know you trust me. I have thought about it many times, and I know you need help. I am willing to try, sir. I will help you have a child." Chinedu's eyes filled with tears as he heard her words. "Ngozi, are you sure?" he asked, his voice quivering. "I know this is a heavy thing to ask. I do not want to hurt you." Ngozi nodded, her voice soft but firm. "Yes, sir. I have talked with my friend Ifeoma. I know that this will change our lives, but I also know that you have been kind to me all these years. I trust you, and I want to help you keep your legacy alive." The room was silent for a moment as Chinedu absorbed her decision. His face, which had been so worn with worry, now looked a little lighter. "Thank you, Ngozi," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have given me hope in my darkest hour." He leaned forward, his hands shaking as he reached for hers. "I promise I will take care of you. I promise that you and the child will be cared for and loved. You have my word." Ngozi felt a mix of emotions, sadness for the situation, worry about what the future held, but also a strange sense of duty. She knew that her decision would change her life forever. "I will do my best, sir," she replied gently. "I will be strong for both of us." Their conversation turned quiet as both sat together in the study. The simple room, with its worn-out books and the soft hum of the air conditioner, became the place where a promise was made. Ngozi's heart still pounded, but she felt a tiny spark of hope. She knew that this choice might be hard, but it was also a chance to help a man who had given so much to his people. That evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Ngozi went back to her small room. She sat by her window and wrote down her thoughts in a little notebook. She wrote about the fear she felt, the respect she had for Sir Chinedu, and the promise she had made. It was a long letter to herself, a reminder of the difficult choice she had made. In her letter, Ngozi also wrote about Ifeoma's kind words and how they helped her see that sometimes, a tough decision is the only way to protect something valuable. She wrote, "I will do this not because I want to change who I am, but because I believe that sometimes, the hardest choices lead to the best outcomes. I trust Sir Chinedu, and I trust that our futures will be brighter if we help each other." The next day, Ngozi joined the other servants for breakfast in the large dining room. The atmosphere was still tense, as the mansion felt the weight of the secret decision made the day before. Although none of the others knew what had been decided, Ngozi carried a quiet look in her eyes. She greeted everyone with a small smile, but inside, she was busy thinking of what she had promised. After breakfast, Sir Chinedu called for her in his study. When she entered, he looked up from a set of papers and smiled weakly. "Ngozi, thank you for trusting me," he said. His voice was soft, and his eyes held gratitude. "I know you must be afraid of what lies ahead. I want you to know that you are not alone in this. I will stand by you every step of the way." Ngozi nodded, feeling the truth in his words. "I will try my best, sir. I may not fully understand what will happen, but I know that I have to help you keep your legacy. I trust you, and I believe that we can do this together." They talked for a long time that day. Sir Chinedu explained his plans and the small details he had thought through. He told her about his hopes for the future and how the child would one day take care of the family business. He spoke in simple words, and every sentence was full of hope, even though his voice sometimes trembled. Ngozi listened carefully, asking questions when she did not understand, and each answer made the path ahead seem a little clearer. As the day turned to evening, the two sat by the large window watching the sun set over the mansion's gardens. Their voices were low as they shared memories of better times and dreams of a future that now depended on the brave choice they had made together. Ngozi felt the heavy burden of her decision ease just a bit. Even though she was still scared of the unknown, she also felt a warmth in her heart knowing that she had helped a man she respected in his time of need. The promise she had made was not just about having a baby, it was about keeping a legacy, about trust, and about finding hope in a hard situation. Before the night ended, Ngozi took one last look at Sir Chinedu, who now seemed less alone. She whispered, "I will do this, sir. I will help you keep your dream alive." Chinedu smiled at her, his eyes shining with gratitude and relief. "Thank you, Ngozi. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." That night, as Ngozi lay in her small bed, the sounds of the mansion quiet around her, she felt the weight of her choice settle in her heart. It was a heavy burden, but one that she would carry with courage. She knew that the road ahead would be long and filled with challenges, but with Sir Chinedu's hope lighting the way, she was ready to face the future. In the gentle hush of the dark, Ngozi whispered to herself, "I will be strong. I will do what must be done." And in that simple promise, the mansion and all its hidden secrets felt a little less heavy, and the new chapter of their lives began with the soft glow of a hope that could light even the darkest night. Later that night, when the mansion grew quiet and most people had gone to sleep, whispers began to stir among the family. In a dim corner of the long, empty corridor, Sir Chinedu's cousin Emeka and his nephew Kelechi spoke in low voices. "I heard Sir Chinedu made a big decision," Emeka said. "He asked Ngozi to help him have a child. That will change everything." Kelechi frowned. "Yes, it might give him an heir. But think about it. If the baby is born, we could lose control of his wealth. We need to be careful." Their words, soft but filled with a secret plan, floated through the halls. Unbeknownst to Sir Chinedu, his family already began to plot, each with their own hidden wish for a share of the empire. In another quiet room, Ngozi sat alone by a small lamp. Her heart pounded as she thought of the family gossip that might one day hurt Sir Chinedu and the promise she had made. She remembered Ifeoma's kind advice and the heavy choice she accepted to help him. Yet now, the sound of hushed voices in the corridors made her worry. She wondered if Sir Chinedu's family would turn against him or use her secret for their own gain. That very night, a gentle knock came on the door of Sir Chinedu's study. Ngozi, feeling a mix of fear and duty, opened the door and stepped in. The room was dark except for the soft light of a small lamp on the desk. Sir Chinedu sat in his big leather chair, his eyes tired and sad. He motioned for her to come closer. "Please, Ngozi, sit with me," he said in a soft tone. Ngozi sat down on the edge of a worn-out sofa. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Sir Chinedu began, "I want you to know more about why I made this choice. I did not ask you lightly. I have spent many years building this empire, and I have given up many dreams along the way." Ngozi listened, her eyes fixed on his face. "Sir, please tell me," she said quietly. He took a deep breath. "When I was young, I struggled to make a name for myself. I worked hard every day and gave everything I had. I had to fight many battles, both in business and in life. I lost my parents early, and I learned that no one would care for me unless I was strong and rich. I built this empire with pain and sweat. But now, I feel that my time is short, and I worry that my work will vanish like smoke if I do not leave something behind." Ngozi felt his words deep in her heart. "I understand, sir," she replied softly. "I have seen how hard you worked and how much you sacrificed for everyone." He looked at her, eyes filled with both hope and sorrow. "Ngozi, I trust you with more than my work. I trust you with my life. This child, our child, will not only be my heir. It will be a symbol that love and hard work can continue even when time is short." At that moment, a small voice from behind the door startled them. It was Mr. Namdi, a trusted aide who had served the family for many years. He stepped in quietly and said, "Sir, I must tell you something." His voice was low, and his eyes darted around as if he feared being overheard. "Go on, Namdi," Sir Chinedu urged, his voice gentle yet firm. Namdi hesitated before speaking. "I have heard many whispers in these halls. Some of our family members have plans that may not be good for you. They wish to use your illness to take control of the empire. I worry they might use your decision against you." Sir Chinedu's face darkened with worry. "What do you mean, Namdi? Who is saying these things?" Namdi looked down, choosing his words carefully. I heard from one of the servants that Emika and Kalechi have been talking. They seem more interested in their own gain than in your well-being. Please be careful, sir. Not everyone in this family has your best interests at heart. Ngozi felt a chill as she listened. The trust she had placed in the family now wavered like a fragile glass. Sir Chinedu sighed deeply. I knew there would be trouble. I have built my life on hard work, but greed can be a poison. I must be careful with every step I take. Ngozi reached out and placed her hand on his. Sir, I will help you. I promise to stand by you, even if others try to hurt you or take away what you have built. The three of them sat in silence for a long time, the weight of secrets and hidden plans hanging in the air. The soft ticking of the old clock filled the room as if marking every beat of their worried hearts. Finally, Sir Chinedu spoke again, his voice filled with a mix of hope and caution. Ngozi, your trust means everything to me. I will make sure that we protect this legacy together. But we must be smart and careful. I cannot let greed tear this family apart. Ngozi nodded firmly. I understand, sir. I will do what I can to help keep you safe and your work alive. In that quiet study, under the dim light of the lamp, a bond grew even stronger. Sir Chinedu, Ngozi, and even the loyal Mr. Namdi knew that the coming days would be filled with challenges. But in that moment, they made a silent promise to face the darkness together, with truth and trust lighting their way. The next morning, the sun peeked through the tall windows of the mansion, and Ngozi woke with a strange feeling in her heart. She felt different, and not just because of the heavy secret she now shared with Sir Chinedu. As she walked quietly to the kitchen, she noticed that her body felt odd, like a gentle flutter inside her. When she sat down to have breakfast with the other servants, she felt a lightness that made her pause. She looked at her hands and wondered, is something really happening to me? Later that day, when the work had slowed, Ngozi took a deep breath and went to see Dr. Uche, who had been visiting the mansion often. In a small, bright room filled with simple furniture, Dr. Uche sat with a kind smile on his face. Ngozi, I have something to tell you, he began softly. You are expecting a child. Ngozi's eyes widened in shock. She clutched her hands together and asked, Really? Am I sure? Dr. Uche nodded. Yes, I have checked and the tests are clear. You are going to have a baby. The news was like a wave, washing over her and leaving her both scared and full of hope. This is happening, she whispered. Sir Chinedu's wish is coming true. Dr. Uche continued, I know this may seem sudden and you might have many questions, but I am here to help you with every step. His simple words made Ngozi feel a bit better, and she left the room with many thoughts swirling in her head. That evening, as the day turned into dusk, Ngozi sat quietly in the small garden outside the mansion. The cool evening air brushed against her skin as she thought about her new condition. She wondered how life would change, how the mansion and Sir Chinedu would be different when the child arrived. The gentle chirping of birds mixed with the soft sound of the wind, making the moment both peaceful and full of quiet worry. A little later, Sir Chinedu came out to join her in the garden. He looked tired, but his eyes shone with a new hope. Ngozi, I know today has been hard for you, he said slowly, taking a seat beside her. But I want you to know how much this means to me. Ngozi turned to him, her eyes full of questions. Sir, how do you feel now that you know that I am with child? Sir Chinedu sighed, his voice trembling with both joy and sadness. I feel like I have been given a second chance. I have spent many years alone with my worries. Now I see a little light in the darkness. But I am also worried. The weight of our secret and the threat of those who want to tear us apart, it is heavy on my heart. Ngozi nodded, her own worries mirroring his. I am scared too, sir. I never thought this day would come so soon. But I also feel a strange kind of hope. This baby will be a sign that something good can come from all the pain. Their words were soft, but full of meaning. They sat together in silence, each lost in thought as the garden slowly filled with the colors of the setting sun. In the days that followed, Ngozi found herself meeting Dr. Uche in secret. They would sit in a small room at the back of the mansion, where the doctor explained what to expect in the coming months. Ngozi, you must rest and take care of yourself, he advised in simple words. This baby needs you strong and healthy. During one of these meetings, Ngozi asked quietly, Dr. Uche, will everything be okay? Will the baby be healthy? The doctor smiled gently. I see many good signs, Ngozi, but you must be careful. The changes in your body may be hard, and you must not worry too much. Focus on your strength and the hope that this child brings. Ngozi felt both comforted and a little more burdened by the responsibility that now lay on her shoulders. The baby was not just a promise for Sir Chinedu's legacy, but a part of her future too. She wondered if her life would ever be the same. Meanwhile, the news of Ngozi's condition began to spread in whispers around the mansion. Some servants noticed her pale face and gentle movements. Rumors spread slowly, like a secret song that everyone hummed in low voices. Even Mr. Namdi, who had warned Sir Chinedu about the family's greed, became more watchful. He kept an eye on every conversation, every subtle smile among the family members. One evening, as the staff gathered quietly in the dining hall, Mr. Namdi spoke in a hushed tone with one of the senior servants. The news of the baby is spreading, he said. We must be careful. Some people might use this to stir trouble. The servant nodded, her eyes wide with worry. I hope Sir Chinedu can protect us all. He is kind, but these matters can bring out the worst in people. The talk in the mansion grew tense, and even those who had not heard the full story felt the shift in the air. The baby was now a secret that could bring hope or lead to more greed and jealousy. Back in the garden, Sir Chinedu and Ngozi met once again under the soft glow of a lantern. Ngozi, Sir Chinedu said, his voice steady yet full of concern, I want you to know that I will do everything to protect you and our baby. But you must promise me that you will stay safe. Ngozi looked up at him, her eyes clear in the dim light. I promise, sir. I will take care of myself. And I will do all that I can to keep our secret safe. Their words, simple and honest, built a small wall of trust between them. They both understood that the coming days would not be easy. The mansion was no longer just a home. It was a place where dreams and danger walked side by side. That night, as Ngozi went to sleep, she thought of the baby growing inside her and the promise of a new beginning. She knew that her life was about to change in ways she could not yet imagine. But deep in her heart, she held on to hope, the hope that one small life could bring light into the darkness of their troubled world. In the quiet hours before dawn, Ngozi whispered softly to herself, I will be brave. I will care for our baby, and I will help keep Sir Chinedu's legacy alive. With that promise in her heart, she closed her eyes, ready to face the challenges of a new day. Later that morning, the mansion woke to a tense air. The news of Ngozi's condition and the coming baby had not only spread among the servants but had also reached the ears of some of the family members. In a small, dim room on the second floor, Emeka and Kelechi sat together at a low table. Their voices were low but full of anger and greed. Chinedu has made a big mistake, Emeka said quietly, tapping his fingers on the table. He trusts Ngozi, but this baby will change everything. We cannot let his empire slip away from us. Kelechi leaned forward. I know, Emeka. We have to act fast. If this child is born, the wealth will pass to someone outside our control. We must find a way to use this to our advantage. Their conversation was filled with plans and secret plots. They spoke of alliances with distant relatives and trusted aides who had long wanted a share of the empire. They believed that if they could turn the situation to their favor, they could wrest power away from Sir Chinedu. Meanwhile, Ngozi was busy with her daily chores but could feel the change in the atmosphere. Every time she walked through the long hallways, she could hear soft whispers that made her heart race. One afternoon, while cleaning the library, she found a small, folded piece of paper hidden between two books on a dusty shelf. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. It was a letter written in plain handwriting, and it read, Dear Ngozi, I have watched over the Okafor family for many years. There may be another way to secure Sir Chinedu's legacy. Beware of those who seek power over love. Signed, a friend. Ngozi's heart pounded as she read the words. She wondered who could have sent this letter. It made her question everything. Was there a hidden truth about Chinedu's past or another secret plan that could save his legacy? She clutched the letter close to her heart, unsure whether to tell Sir Chinidu or keep it secret for now. That same evening, Mr. Namdi met with Sir Chinidu in the quiet study. His face was grave, and his voice was soft yet urgent. "Sir, I have learned more about the plans of our family. Emeka and Kelechi are not the only ones who want power. I have seen others whisper in corners. They want to use your illness to take over your work." Sir Chinidu frowned deeply. "What do you mean, Namdi? Who is behind this?" Namdi hesitated before answering. "I heard that some distant relatives have been meeting secretly. They talk about getting rid of any obstacles in their way. I fear that if we do not act soon, the love and hard work you built might be lost." The worry in Sir Chinidu's eyes was clear. "I must protect this family and my legacy," he said quietly. "I trusted many with my heart and work, and now it seems greed has taken root. I need to know whom I can trust." Later that night, Ngozi found herself in a small, empty corridor. Her mind raced with the letter she had found and the voices of hidden conspiracies. As she walked slowly, she was approached by Adiz, the family lawyer, who had been known for her quiet strength and fairness. Adiz spoke in a low voice. "Ngozi, I know things have changed. I have heard rumors of secret meetings and plans to change the will. I want to help protect Sir Chinidu's wishes." Ngozi looked at Adiz, surprised by her words. "Adiz, I did not know you were aware of all this. I only want what is right for Sir Chinidu and for the baby." Adiz nodded. "I have seen many cases where greed turns families against each other. We must make sure that the truth of Sir Chinidu's wishes is known. His decision was made with love and hope, not for power or money. We need to stand together." Ngozi's voice was soft but determined. "I found a letter today. It said there might be another way to keep his legacy safe. I do not know what it means, but it worries me. Could it be that there is more to this than I understand?" Adiz placed a hand on Ngozi's shoulder. "That letter may hold a clue, Ngozi. It is important that we learn the truth. I will try to find out who wrote it and what it means. In the meantime, we must be very careful. The family is full of people who only care about their own gain." Over the next few days, the mansion was filled with a quiet tension. Emeka and Kelechi continued to meet in secret, plotting their next move. They discussed plans in hushed voices behind closed doors. "We must not let Sir Chinidu or Ngozi get too close to the truth," Kelechi insisted. "Once the baby is born, we can say that we were the ones who guided the future of this empire." Emeka frowned, his mind already racing with ideas. "I will speak to some of the distant relatives. I know a few who will listen if the price is right. We will build a network, one that can block any chance of Sir Chinidu's true wishes coming to light." As these secret meetings continued, Adiz worked hard to gather information. She reviewed old documents, talked to trusted aides, and kept a careful watch on the movements of the family members. One afternoon, she called Sir Chinidu to her office. The room was plain, with a large wooden desk and a few chairs. "Sir Chinidu, I have found some old records that might help us," she said. "They show that there was a promise made long ago by one of your ancestors. A promise that the true heir would be chosen by love and loyalty, not by greed." Sir Chinidu listened carefully, his eyes narrowing. "Tell me more, Adiz. I need to understand if this can help me now." Adiz explained slowly, "These records suggest that there is a hidden clause in your family's legacy. It says that the true heir must be a person who has shown true love and loyalty, even in the darkest times. This clause was meant to protect the family from those who only seek wealth. It may be that your choice, Ngozi, was guided by this idea all along." The news filled Sir Chinidu with hope. "Then we must protect her at all costs," he said firmly. "I cannot let greed ruin everything I have built. I must be sure that the truth comes out, and that my legacy stays in safe hands." That evening, Sir Chinidu gathered Adiz, Mr. Namdi, and Ngozi in the study. The room felt colder than usual as they sat around the large table. Sir Chinidu spoke with a clear, strong voice. "We have uncovered evidence that there is a hidden promise in my family's records. It is said that the true heir must be one who has shown love and loyalty. I believe that you, Ngozi, are that person. We must stand together against those who want to take what is rightfully ours." Ngozi's eyes filled with tears, but she spoke clearly, "I will do what is right, sir. I have trusted you and I will trust in our future. I am not just your helper, I am part of your dream." Mr. Namdi nodded slowly, "I will watch over you both. I have seen too much to let greed win. I will speak to those who can help us, quietly, so that no harm comes to this family." Adiz added, "I promise to use all my skills to make sure the law stands on your side. We will fight for what is true and fair." The room was filled with a mix of hope and fear. Outside, the wind blew softly, as if echoing the voices of the past. Emeka and Kelechi's secret meetings continued, but now, the power of truth and loyalty began to shine through the dark corners of the mansion. As the night grew deeper, Sir Chinedu, Ngozi, and their loyal friends planned their next steps. They decided to keep the records safe and to work on spreading the truth of the hidden promise. Their goal was to make sure that when the time came, no one could take away what they had built with hard work and love. In that moment, the mansion was no longer just a place of secrets and plots. It became a place where hope and loyalty were being defended. Each person in the room felt that, together, they could overcome the greed that threatened their future. The hidden promise in the old records gave them a new strength. A strength born of love, truth, and the desire to protect what mattered most. And so, as the moon shone bright outside, the battle lines were quietly drawn. Sir Chinedu's family of trust, led by Ngozi, Adiz, and Mr. Namdi, prepared to face the storm of deceit. They would stand together to protect the legacy built from sweat and love, hoping that one day, the truth would outshine the darkness of greed. The days that followed were heavy with worry. Sir Chinedu's health began to worsen, and the mansion was filled with a quiet fear. Every morning, Sir Chinedu struggled to rise from his bed. His face, once so strong, now looked pale and tired. Every step he took was slow, and his voice, which once boomed with power, had become soft and weak. One early morning, Ngozi found Sir Chinedu sitting by a large window, staring out at the garden. The dew on the grass sparkled in the weak light as he tried to gather his thoughts. Ngozi stepped closer, her heart full of concern. "Sir, are you feeling any better today?" she asked gently. Sir Chinedu sighed deeply, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of pain and regret. "Ngozi, every day feels heavier than the one before. I can feel my body giving in. I always thought I was strong, but now, I feel so tired." His voice cracked with each word. "I wish I could have done more, but time is not on my side." Ngozi reached out and placed her hand on his, trying to offer comfort. "I know, sir. I will do my best to help you. Please do not worry. We are together in this, and we will face what comes." Later that day, in the quiet of the study, Ngozi and Sir Chinedu sat down together to talk about all that had happened. The room was dim, lit only by a small lamp on the table. Ngozi could see the worry and sorrow in Sir Chinedu's eyes. "I never thought it would come to this," he said slowly. "After all my hard work and all my battles, I am left with regrets and fears." Ngozi listened carefully. "Sir, you have done so much for us all. Your work, your love, and your strength have built this family. I know you feel weak now, but please remember that your legacy is not just in your wealth. It is in the hearts of those you have touched." Sir Chinedu's eyes filled with tears. "Ngozi, I wish I had more time. I wish I could see my child grow, see you smile without fear. I am scared that when I am gone, everything I built will fall apart. I feel so alone with these regrets." He paused, his hand tightening around hers. Ngozi squeezed his hand gently. "You are not alone, sir. We have each other, and we have our friends like Adiz and Mr. Namdi. They will help us. We will protect your legacy, no matter what happens." Her words were simple, yet they carried the weight of her promise. That evening, as the sun dipped low behind the mansion, a storm of emotions broke out. In the grand hall, Emeka confronted Sir Chinedu. His face was dark with anger as he stepped forward. "Chinedu, you have always been stubborn. Now you are weak, and you are letting your decision bring shame to this family." Emeka's voice echoed off the high ceilings. Sir Chinedu looked up, his eyes tired but defiant. "Emeka, I have done what I believed was right. I have built this empire with my own hands. I chose Ngozi because I trust her, and I believe in the promise we made." His voice was soft but firm. Emeka scoffed, "Trust? You trust a servant over your own family? You are letting your illness make you blind. This child, this decision, it will ruin everything." A hush fell over the hall as all eyes turned to the two men. Ngozi stood at the side, feeling the tension like a heavy blanket over her shoulders. Mr. Namdi, who had been listening quietly, stepped in. "Emeka, you must understand that this is not about our power. It is about preserving the true spirit of the Okafor legacy. Sir Chinedu chose Ngozi because of her loyalty and love. We cannot let greed tear us apart." Emeka's face reddened with anger. "Loyalty? What are those when there is wealth at stake? I will not stand by and let your foolish choices destroy our future." Sir Chinedu tried to speak, but his voice was weak. "Please, Emeka, let us not fight. We are family. We must stand together now, especially in these dark times." But Emeka's anger would not be soothed. "You are already weak, Chinedu, and if you continue like this, you will lose everything." In that moment, Ngozi felt her heart pounding. She knew that Emeka's words could bring more harm than good. She took a step forward, her voice steady despite the fear inside. "Sir, please, let us not fight among ourselves. We have to protect what you have built. I know you are hurting, but fighting will only make it worse." Emeka glared at her. "And who are you to speak, Ngozi? You may have a child for him, but you are not one of us." His words cut sharply through the silence. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears, but she held her ground. "I may not be born of this family, but I have given my heart to this home. I will protect this legacy with my life if I must." Her voice was clear and simple, filled with an honesty that touched the gathered crowd. The tension in the grand hall grew thicker, and even the old clock on the wall seemed to tick louder in the silence that followed. Emeka's eyes burned with anger, and for a moment, it looked as if the feud would escalate into a full-blown fight. But Mr. Namdi stepped in once more, his voice calm but firm. "Enough. We must remember what is at stake. Sir Chinedu's health is failing, and soon, a new generation will come. We cannot let our greed break us apart." Emeka muttered under his breath and stormed out of the hall, leaving behind a trail of bitter words. Sir Chinedu, weakened by the confrontation, sank back into his chair, his eyes closing as if in sorrow. Ngozi moved to his side, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "I will stay by you, sir. We will get through this together." Later that night, Ngozi sat with Ifeoma in a quiet corner of the mansion. Ifeoma's eyes were kind, and her voice was soft as she spoke. "Ngozi, I know this is a hard time for you. I have seen many storms in this family, and I believe in your strength. You have a kind heart, and that is what matters most." Ngozi sighed, her eyes distant. "I am scared, Ifeoma. I worry about Sir Chinedu, about the baby, and about what will happen if the family continues to fight. I never imagined that a secret promise would lead to so much trouble." Ifeoma squeezed her hand. "Sometimes the hardest choices bring the greatest challenges. But they also bring hope. Your strength, your loyalty, is what will guide us through these dark times." As the days passed, the mansion became a battleground of both emotions and whispered plots. Sir Chinedu's health declined further, and every day he grew weaker. Yet in his moments of vulnerability, he would speak softly with Ngozi, sharing his dreams and regrets. One afternoon, while resting in his study, he said, "Ngozi, when I was young, I dreamed of a life filled with joy and laughter. But life taught me harsh lessons. I have fought hard, but now I feel the weight of my mistakes. I only hope that my legacy will not be lost in all this chaos." Ngozi's voice trembled as she replied, "Sir, you have given us so much. Your legacy is not just in wealth, but in the love and hard work you have shown. I promise I will keep your dream alive. I will take care of our baby and do everything in my power to protect what you have built." Her words were simple, but they carried the hope of a new beginning. That same evening, Adiz visited Sir Chinedu's room. She sat beside him and said, "Sir, we must prepare for what is coming. The people who seek power will not stop until they get what they want. We need to be smart and careful. Your records, the promise of love and loyalty, these must be kept safe. Sir Chinedu nodded weakly. I know at ease. I have trusted you with this secret because I believe in your wisdom. Please, help me protect this legacy. Let the truth shine through even when darkness surrounds us. Adiz placed her hand on his. I will, sir. We will stand together. And Ngozi, she is the true heir, chosen not by blood, but by the strength of her heart. The words filled Sir Chinedu with a mix of hope and sorrow. Outside, the wind howled softly, as if mourning the passing of old dreams and heralding the arrival of a new dawn. Inside the mansion, alliances were being tested, and each day brought a new challenge. Yet amid the fear and the pain, there was a glimmer of trust and determination that would light their way through the storm. As the night deepened, Sir Chinedu and Ngozi sat together by the window, watching the dark sky. His voice was barely a whisper. I am sorry, Ngozi, for all the pain and worry I have caused. I wish I could go back and change many things. Ngozi rested her head on his shoulder. Do not apologize, sir. I know you did what you thought was best. I will be here to help, and together, we will make sure your legacy lives on. Their quiet conversation, filled with simple yet deep words, bonded them even more. In that moment, they knew that no matter how hard the road ahead might be, they had each other, and that was enough to face the coming storm. In the soft glow of the lamp, as the mansion slept and the storm raged quietly outside, they made a promise to stand by truth, to protect love, and to keep the light of hope alive even in the darkest of nights. Night had fallen over the mansion, and the air grew heavy with the feeling of an ending that was near. Sir Chinedu's condition had worsened even further, and each day felt like a countdown to an unknown future. In the quiet of his room, his breaths came slowly as if he were counting each one. Ngozi sat by his side, holding his hand tightly, sharing the silent pain of the moment. Sir, I am here with you, Ngozi whispered, her voice soft but steady. I will not let you face this alone. Sir Chinedu gave a small nod. Ngozi, I fear my time is almost up. I am scared that my legacy will crumble without the strength of truth and love to hold it together. His eyes, tired and filled with regret, searched hers for comfort. Meanwhile, in another part of the mansion, voices rose in heated debate. Emeka, still angry from their previous quarrels, gathered with a few relatives in a dim room. This is the time to act, Emeka said sharply. With Chinedu gone, we can take what is rightfully ours. His tone was harsh, filled with bitterness. Back in the study, Mr. Namdi and Adiz spoke quietly with Sir Chinedu and Ngozi. We must secure the promise in the records, Mr. Namdi urged, his voice low. The true heir is one of love and loyalty. That is why Ngozi is meant to carry this legacy. Adiz added, we have to make sure that when the time comes, our voices are heard. We cannot let greed win. Sir Chinedu's eyes flickered with hope as he listened. I want my child to grow up in a home filled with trust and care. I want my work not to be taken over by those who only see wealth. His voice faltered as he spoke, but his words were clear and strong. Ngozi squeezed his hand in response. Later that evening in the mansion's dim hall, Ngozi confronted Emeka, whose eyes burned with anger. Emeka, please understand, she said firmly. This is not about power or money. It is about keeping a promise of love, hard work, and loyalty that Sir Chinedu built all his life. Emeka sneered, you think a promise can stop ambition? When he is gone, the empire will be mine. His words echoed off the walls, but even in his anger, there was a hint of fear. Ngozi's voice grew even firmer. Greed will only lead to pain and division. We must stand together, for the sake of Sir Chinedu's memory and the child that will carry his light into the future. For a long moment, silence hung in the air, heavy and filled with tension. Outside, as the night deepened, the storm clouds gathered and the wind howled softly. Inside the mansion, loyalties began to shift. Some relatives, hearing the truth in Ngozi's words, looked away from Emeka's harsh glare. Others whispered agreements, knowing that the promise of true love and loyalty was stronger than selfish desire. In that solemn hour, as Sir Chinedu's final days loomed, a quiet resolve settled among those who truly cared. With Ngozi, Mr. Namdi, and Adiz united in purpose, they prepared for the coming days with a promise of unyielding strength. They would protect Sir Chinedu's legacy, no matter the cost, as the dying hours approached and a new dawn waited on the horizon. The morning after the long, painful days, the mansion felt strangely empty and quiet. Sir Chinedu had passed away in the night. His chair in the study sat untouched, and his soft voice no longer filled the halls. In the early light, Ngozi stood by the window, looking out at the garden where many happy memories once bloomed. Now, she felt the weight of both loss and a new beginning. In the quiet of that morning, Adiz and Mr. Namdi gathered with Ngozi in the study. Adiz spoke first, her voice gentle but firm. Sir Chinedu gave us a promise of love and loyalty. Now, it is our duty to see that his true legacy lives on. Mr. Namdi nodded in agreement. We must protect the records and the hidden clause that shows the true heir is chosen by heart. This child, born of true love, is the light we must guard. Ngozi, holding back tears, replied, I will do everything I can to care for this child. I know that my role is not only to be a mother but also to honor the dreams of Sir Chinedu. I will not let greed win. Her simple words carried the strength of her promise. As word of Sir Chinedu's death spread slowly among the family and servants, the mansion transformed into a place of both mourning and hope. Emeka, who had once shouted in anger, now sat quietly in a corner of the dining hall. His face was troubled, and for a moment his anger had cooled. Some relatives began to see that perhaps their selfish plans had hurt the very heart of the family. A few of them whispered softly to each other, wondering if a change in direction might be needed. Later that day, a small group gathered in the garden. It was a soft, warm afternoon, and the sky was a clear blue. Ngozi, Adiz, and Mr. Namdi met with a few of the gentler family members. They spoke in simple words about what needed to be done. We must repair the damage, said one of the cousins, his voice low. We must remember Sir Chinedu's true wish for us, a future built on care and truth, not on greed. Ngozi listened carefully. I believe in that wish, she said quietly. I promise to raise my child with love and honor. I will teach him the value of hard work, loyalty, and kindness. This child is more than an heir. He is a new start for all of us. The conversation grew into a plan. Adiz added, I will work on making sure the records are safe and that everyone understands the hidden promise. The law must protect the true spirit of our family. We must show that Sir Chinedu's legacy is one of love, not of money. Mr. Namdi nodded. I will speak with those who can help us. We must rebuild trust among the family. Let us start with a family meeting where everyone can share their thoughts and mend old wounds. That evening, in the great hall of the mansion, a meeting was held. The room was filled with faces both sorrowful and hopeful. Emeka, who had once been full of anger, was there too. When it was time to speak, Mr. Namdi stood and said, We are here today to honor Sir Chinedu's memory. Let us remember his dream and work together to rebuild what is most important, our family built on trust and love. There was a long silence before Emeka finally spoke, his voice trembling. I have been angry and lost in my own desire for power. I now see that what we had was much more valuable. I was wrong. I am sorry for the hurt I caused. His words were simple and clear, and for a moment, the room felt lighter. A few relatives nodded slowly, agreeing that a new start was needed. Ngozi stood up, her eyes shining with both tears and determination. Today, I promise to care for the child and protect the legacy of Sir Chinedu. This baby will be a symbol of hope and of our promise to one another. Let us work together so that his life and all his hard work are never forgotten. The meeting ended with small smiles and tentative handshakes. It was not a perfect moment, but it was a start, a first step toward healing the old wounds. Over the following weeks, the mansion slowly changed. The once secretive corridors were filled with honest conversations and gentle laughter. Adiz and Mr. Namdi worked hard to update the records and to make sure that every family member knew the truth about the promise Sir Chinedu had made. They set up meetings and small gatherings where ideas were shared and old grudges began to melt away. Ngozi, now more determined than ever, began to prepare for the baby's arrival. Every day, she would sit with Ifeoma in the garden, planning a simple, warm home for the child. "This baby will grow up knowing the truth," Ngozi told her friend one sunny afternoon. "He will know that love and loyalty are the strongest powers we have." Ifeoma smiled and squeezed her hand in support. Even Emeka began to change. Though he never spoke much about his own regrets, he started to join the meetings and listen to the plans for rebuilding the family's future. His eyes, once sharp with anger, now showed a glimmer of understanding. "I want to help," he said one evening, almost hesitantly. "I want to see that we all grow together, that Sir Chinedu's dream is not lost." As the months passed, the baby's presence brought a fresh light to the mansion. Every little sound, a soft cry or a coo, seemed to echo the promise of a new beginning. The mansion, once a place of secret plots and bitter fights, slowly became a home of hope and unity. Family meetings turned into planning sessions for the future, where the plans were simple and filled with care. One clear night, under a sky full of bright stars, Ngozi stood with Adiz and Mr. Namdi outside the mansion. "Look at the stars," Adiz said softly. "They remind me that even after the darkest night, a new day comes." Mr. Namdi agreed. Sir Chinedu believed in a legacy that could shine like these stars. Now, with the child, that light will grow even brighter. Ngozi smiled, her heart filled with a mix of sadness for the past and hope for the future. "I will raise this child with all the love I have," she said. "I will tell him stories of his father's hard work and kind heart. I will teach him that true strength comes from caring for one another." In that moment, it felt as if the mansion itself breathed a sigh of relief. The legacy of Sir Chinedu was not just in his wealth or his power, but in the love he had shared and the promise of a future built on trust and unity. The child, soon to be born, was a living reminder that even in the midst of loss and pain, there could be rebirth and hope. As the days turned into weeks, the mansion continued to heal. The family, once divided by greed, began to see that working together was the only way to honor the memory of the man who had built so much. Every small step, every kind word, every shared meal, became a brick in the new foundation of the Okafor legacy. And so, as the child grew inside Ngozi and the promise of a new dawn spread through the halls of the mansion, a legacy transcending blood and greed was born. It was a legacy built on simple truths: love, hard work, loyalty, and hope, a promise that would guide them through all the days to come.